Hello, Junior 5. I hope you are all doing well. Today we are going to continue what Ms. Sarah started last week in the revision booklet. Let's start with the reader part. As always, I say, I want you, whenever you are studying your novel or your reader, first you have to read the chapter very well and more than once. And after reading it very well, use the main details to make your own summary. And then you can create your own questions and start to answer them. And here we have some questions from your revision booklet, and we will answer them together. The first question: compare between Oliver's life at the workhouse and at Melai's house. Of course, as you know, that Oliver lived a hard life at the workhouse as he was treated with cruelty. Nobody was kind to him, especially Mrs. Corney, the greedy matron of the workhouse. He was always hungry, and he was fed a small amount of watery soup. Moreover, he was always tired, and Mrs. Corney let him work in gathering oakum, which was a tough work for a young child. In addition, he was punished when he asked for more watery soup. And finally, he decided to run away to London. But on the other hand, Oliver had a better life at Mrs. Melai's house. He liked to be with Rose and Mrs. Melai, as he spent most of the time laughing and playing. In addition, Rose offered to teach him to read and write, and he agreed. His life there was full of joy and love. This was the first question. Question 2, Rose sympathizes more with Oliver. Why? You know that Rose was an orphan like Oliver, and Mrs. Melai adopted her and raised her up in her house so that she could understand Oliver's suffering. And she thought that she could be the same like Oliver if Mrs. Melai didn't take care. Question 3, though Nancy was very good at deceiving people, yet she is still a kind person. Discuss. At first, you know that Nancy pretended to be Oliver's sister in order to kidnap him. But after she took him to Fagin's house, she started to feel sorry for him, and she tried to save him from Fagin when he wanted to teach him how to steal. She didn't want to be a thief. She didn't want him to be a thief like them. Question 5, Mr. Brownlow plays an important role in the life of Oliver. He cared much about Oliver. How? We will say that Mr. Brownlow was the first kind voice that Oliver heard, and he was the first person who cared about him, as he thought that Oliver didn't look guilty, and he defended him when the policeman wanted to take him. After that, he took him to his house, brought him a doctor to examine, and fed him a thick, rich soup. Then he let him to rest in a clean room. Moreover, he took the portrait away, and he didn't want to bother him by asking more questions. In addition, after Oliver was kidnapped, he insisted to search for him, and he offered money for anyone who provides him with any information about Oliver. Question 6, what is Mr. Brownlow's occupation? He was a lawyer, of course. Number 7, What did Monks throw in the river after his meeting with Mrs. Corney? He threw the gold marriage ring of Agnes, Oliver's mom. Number 8, who was Mrs. Corney? Mrs. Corney was the greedy matron of the workhouse. She was a cruel person. She liked money more than the orphans that she was responsible for, so that she kept saving the money given by the government for feeding the orphans to herself. She fed them watery soup, and she was so cruel with them. Moreover, she was a dishonest character, as she helped Monks to hide Oliver's identity by giving him the gold ring to throw it in the river. Question 9. How is Rose related to the lady of the house? You know that Mrs. May adopted her as she was an orphan, and she raised her up in her house. The last question. Why did Mrs. May and Rose decided to keep Oliver in their house? As Rose felt pity towards Oliver and thought that he isn't a criminal and he could have a better life like her if there was someone caring about him, so she asked Mrs. May to keep him at home, and Mrs. May promised her not to harm him, and he lived happily with them. This was for the reader part. Good luck.